1. Geopolitical and historical ambitions. Russia and Ukraine have deep historical and cultural ties. Russia has always considered Ukraine an important part of its sphere of influence for several reasons. Historical ties. Ukraine was part of the Russian Empire and then the Soviet Union, USSR. After the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, Russia has always considered Ukraine an important cultural, political and economic part of its post-Soviet space. Russia often considers Ukraine to be the historical origin of the modern Russian state, with Kiev Rus, a medieval East Slavic state, being considered the predecessor of Russia. Ukraine and Belarus. Loss of control after the Soviet Union. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russia lost a large amount of territory and influence over the former Soviet states, including Ukraine. Moscow feels that Ukraine's western tilt is a direct threat to Russia's influence in the region. Threats from NATO and the West. Russia has always been concerned about NATO's expansion eastward, right up to its borders. This is believed to be one of the main reasons why Russia decided to take military action. NATO expansion. Since the Cold War, NATO has expanded eastward, absorbing many countries that were once part of the Soviet-led Warsaw Pact. Russia sees this as a direct security threat. Ukraine and NATO. Russia is concerned about the possibility of Ukraine joining NATO. A NATO member would make Russia feel surrounded by Western military forces right on its borders. Although Ukraine has not formally joined NATO, there has been growing military and political cooperation with Western countries, which Moscow cannot ignore. Missile shield. Russia is also concerned that NATO could deploy missile defense systems or offensive weapons near Russia's borders through Ukraine, weakening Russia's strategic defense capabilities. The Maidan Revolution, 2014, and the pro-Western government. In 2014, the Maidan Revolution in Ukraine led to the overthrow of pro-Russian President Viktor Yanukovych and the establishment of a pro-Western government. This marked a sharp shift in Ukraine's foreign policy, with the goal of joining the European Union, EU, and NATO. The Maidan Revolution increased tensions between Russia and Ukraine. Russia viewed the overthrow of Yanukovych's government as Western interference in Ukraine's internal politics and a direct threat to Russian influence. Russia's annexation of Crimea. Following the Maidan Revolution, Russia annexed the Crimean Peninsula in March 2014. Crimea is a strategic region with an important naval base in Sevastopol, home to Russia's Black Sea Fleet. Russia cited the annexation as protecting the interests of the Russian community in Crimea. Support for separatists in eastern Ukraine. After the annexation of Crimea, Russia continued to support pro-Russian separatists in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions of eastern Ukraine, leading to a protracted conflict. Russian nationalism and the Ruski Mir ideology. President Vladimir Putin has promoted a vision of a Russian world, Ruski Mir, in which Russia would play a role in protecting Russian communities abroad and restoring Russian influence globally. Ukraine, with its large Russian-speaking population and deep cultural ties to Russia, has become a key target of this vision. Putin and other Russian leaders have repeatedly stressed that Ukraine cannot exist as a fully independent state from Russia, and that Western attempts to pull Ukraine out of Russia's sphere of influence are unacceptable to Moscow. Internal situation in Russia. Russia's internal political situation may also have played a role in the decision to attack Ukraine. Some factors include internal politics and Putin's consolidation of power. For Putin, attacking Ukraine could be a way to consolidate power at home and assert his position against political opponents. Economics. Russia has faced many economic challenges, and creating an external conflict could help distract public attention from internal economic problems. War in 2022. In February 2022, Russia launched a full-scale attack on Ukraine. Ukraine's failure to comply with the Minsk agreements. Russia believes that Ukraine has not fully implemented its commitments under the Minsk agreements, which were intended to reduce the conflict in eastern Ukraine. Recognition of the independence of Donetsk and Luhansk. Before attacking Ukraine, Russia recognized the independence of the two separatist regions of Donetsk and Luhansk. This is believed to be the first step in justifying military action. Russia claims that its goals are to demilitarize and defascist Ukraine. and protect Russian civilians in Donbass. However, international and Western observers believe that these are just pretexts for Russia to expand its territory and interests, as well as prevent Ukraine from joining NATO. International response. Russia's attack has drawn strong condemnation from the international community. Many countries have imposed heavy economic sanctions on Russia, while providing military and financial support to Ukraine. However, Russia continues to fight and maintain its objectives. Russia has attacked Ukraine for a combination of reasons, including historical factors, geopolitical factors, security concerns related to NATO and the West, as well as the internal goals of the Russian government. This conflict has caused a major humanitarian and geopolitical crisis, and its impact is spreading not only in the region but also globally. In the end, what we need is negotiation, intervention by NATO and the powerful countries of the world to oppose these violent wars.